Karen's smile didn't just fade, it collapsed in real time. 1 second she was leaning back like this was a formality, and the next, the county investigator slid my packet across the table and said calmly, almost bored, "This easement is rejected. Fraud review starts today." The room went so quiet I could hear the copier behind us chewing paper slow and mechanical like a warning that should have come weeks earlier. 3 weeks before that moment, Karen Hennings decided my private lake was no longer mine. She didn't swing a hammer. She didn't trespass personally. She just pointed, delegated, and expected everyone else to cross my boundary for her, then wrapped it all in the language of community safety, like that made it legal, or moral, or invisible. It started the way these things always do, with an email blast. Subject line, Emergency Preparedness Update. Nothing screams danger like a friendly font and a bolded header. The message talked about fire season evacuation routes, kids, seniors, the usual checklist of things you're not supposed to question without feeling like a monster. Halfway down the email was a diagram, a temporary access route, drawn cleanly, professionally, and running straight through my parcel, skirting the edge of my lake as if my deed were a suggestion instead of a legal document. Karen's goal wasn't permission. It was moral cover. If she framed it as safety, anyone who objected would look selfish. That was the mechanism, and I knew it the moment I read it. I didn't reply. Not publicly. I captured the email with full headers, saved the attachment, logged the timestamp, and dropped it into a folder on my desktop labeled Timeline, Week 1. Evidence first, always. Then I pulled my deed, the recorded plat, and a current GIS printout. My boundaries were boringly clear. No easement, no access, no ambiguity, just lines on paper that had been there longer than Karen had lived in the neighborhood. 2 days later, she escalated. This time, it wasn't email. It was the HOA app, the one people scroll through while waiting in line or half-watching TV. She posted a message that looked harmless enough at first glance. We can't let one homeowner block community safety. No name, no direct accusation, just enough to let the comments do the dirty work for her. And they did. People chimed in about responsibility, about emergencies, about how rules sometimes have to bend. It was social pressure by design. The goal was to isolate me so any pushback would look like ego. A neighbor named Mark caught me in town later that day. He looked uncomfortable the way people do when they're about to show you something they shouldn't have. He held up his phone and showed me a screenshot. Karen in a private HOA message thread typing the quiet part out loud. If he refuses, we proceed under emergency necessity. I didn't react. I didn't argue. I asked Mark to forward it to my email with a one-line confirmation that it was accurate. When it landed, I saved it as a witness email 1. The timeline was starting to write itself. When the soft pressure didn't work, Karen tried to manufacture consent. A courier dropped a glossy packet in my mailbox. Heavy paper, friendly language, a temporary right of entry request wrapped in cooperative phrasing about neighbors working together. It was the kind of document people sign because it feels small, temporary, reasonable. That was the goal. Get my signature. Stretch it later. I responded by certified mail because certified mail doesn't forget. No consent, no entry, no easement. All communications in writing. I attached a highlighted boundary map and the page of my deed with the legal description circled in red. I didn't insult her. I didn't threaten. I just closed every door she was hoping I'd leave cracked. She never replied. Instead, she pivoted to internal paperwork. The HOA board passed a safety resolution naming my lake a community resource. It was theater, the illusion of authority, confusing HOA votes with law and hoping no one would notice. I noticed. I filed a records request for meeting minutes, vendor bids, and any permits. The admin sent me a shared drive link. Most of it was filler, but one file name stopped me cold. Easement recording, final PDF. I downloaded it. Check the file properties. Author Karen Hennings. Created at 11:17 p.m. the night before the so-called vote. That was the moment the line got crossed, not by words, by intent. The next morning, my driveway camera pinged at 7:06 a.m. A pickup truck with a contractor logo rolled up, followed by a small excavator on a trailer. 3 workers stepped out stretching like they'd done this 100 times before, and behind them, standing neatly at the edge of my boundary stake, was Karen. Clean jeans, a blazer that didn't belong anywhere near mud. Their goal was speed. Trench in a dry hydrant intake, then claim emergency access was already installed. Act confident, move fast, and people hesitate. I walked to my boundary marker and started filming without stepping an inch onto their side. "Morning," I said. "Flat. Controlled. You are not authorized to enter this parcel." The foreman raised his hands. "We were told access was approved." "Approved by who?" His eyes flicked to Karen. She didn't answer him. She looked at me. "This is for community safety. Don't interfere." I didn't interfere with bodies. I interfered with procedure. I called the sheriff's non-emergency line and reported active trespass and unpermitted excavation at my boundary. The dispatcher gave me an incident number. I repeated it out loud into the camera so it lived inside the recording. Then I panned to the truck plate, the company logo, and Karen standing just outside the line supervising like a manager watching someone else take the risk. When the deputy arrived, he was calm and efficient. He asked the foreman for written permission from the landowner. The foreman produced a single page, unsigned by me. The deputy looked at Karen. "Ma'am, do you have signed authorization?" She tried to smile. "We have a board resolution." His face didn't move. "That's not authorization." They packed up in 12 minutes. As they left, I photographed the disturbed soil, the orange stakes they'd planted, and my property marker in the same frame. Evidence ladder. Every escalation earned a timestamp. Karen's next move wasn't in dirt. It was in offices. On Tuesday, a clerk from the county recorder's office called me. "Something referencing your parcel was submitted," she said. "You should come in." I drove down with my deed and ID. On her screen was a recorded easement listing the HOA as beneficiary. Right-of-way for emergency access to a water resource. Change the public record first. Argue later. I requested a certified copy immediately. The signature block made my anger go cold. My name was typed. The signature wasn't mine. The notary stamp belonged to someone I'd never met. That was the moment I felt it, the weight. Not just anger. Doubt. I sat in my truck afterward, staring at the steering wheel, thinking about how easy it would be to stop, to let it go, to tell myself maybe this was bigger than me. Maybe I was wrong. Maybe one leg didn't matter. Maybe I was being difficult. That thought lasted about 10 seconds, because if I let this stand, it wouldn't stop, and I knew it. That afternoon, my attorney and I filed for a temporary restraining order and a petition to flag and expunge the fraudulent instrument. We attached everything: my deed signature, exemplars, recorder receipt, camera stills, the deputy's incident number. The case number posted online within hours. I screenshotted it and added it to the timeline. Instead of backing down, Karen tried to fund the lie. An HOA notice hit doorsteps proposing a special assessment to pay for fire mitigation infrastructure. The goal was to lock residents into the story with money. If they paid for it, they'd defend it. I contacted the county fire marshal's office and requested records. Any directive or recommendation requiring access to my lake. The response came in writing. None. I printed it, highlighted the line, and saved it as Fire Marshal Reply 01. Then Karen went for borrowed legitimacy. She scheduled a safety coordination conference at the county building and emailed me. "Attend so we can clear confusion." I agreed. Procedure doesn't scare me. The conference room was fluorescent and cold. Around the table sat Karen, 2 HOA board members, the contractor foreman, a county recorder investigator, and my attorney. Witnesses with responsibilities. Karen walked in confident. She set a binder down like she was delivering fact. "We already recorded the easement," she said, smiling at the investigator. "We just need the county to acknowledge it." I let her finish. Then I slid my packet across the table. My deed, the certified copy of her recorded instrument, the recorder receipt, the incident number, the fire marshal's email, the PDF metadata showing she authored the final easement late at night. The investigator studied the signature, then looked at me. "Is this your signature?" "No," I said, "and I can prove it." Karen leaned back, still performing confidence. "He's being dramatic. This is for safety." The investigator pulled out a form. "Ma'am, this is a fraud referral." The words landed heavy. "The instrument is rejected pending review." You could see Karen's certainty try to reroute. "Rejected," she repeated. "Yes," the investigator said. "And any contractor action taken under this filing is at their own risk." The foreman swallowed. "We were told it was approved." I turned to him, not angry, precise. "Who told you?" He hesitated. Karen's eyes drilled into him. But intimidation loses oxygen when procedure enters the room. "Karen's office," he said. "She signed off on the work order." That was it. The next day, the judge granted the TRO. The HOA Karen and any agents were prohibited from entering my parcel, representing any easement as valid or collecting any assessment tied to my lake. The recorder flagged the instrument. Expungement followed. Karen attempted a corrective filing. It was denied in writing. Pay came last. The HOA's counsel asked to discuss settlement, withdraw the assessment, reimburse my fees, issue a written retraction, remove Karen as president, bar her from serving as an HOA officer for 5 years. She refused. Pride is expensive. Then the HOA's insurance carrier warned the board that continued defiance could jeopardize coverage due to intentional misconduct. 2 weeks later, Karen signed. She was voted out the same night. The fraudulent easement disappeared from the public record, replaced by a court notation that it had been rejected and removed. I didn't celebrate. I grilled burgers for my daughter and 2 friends who had backed me quietly when it wasn't convenient. We sat on the porch and listened to the water move in the dark. Mark texted me one line, "Karen's gone." I replied with one word, "Good." Because she didn't lose because I was louder. She lost because I was cleaner. Cleaner evidence. Cleaner timelines. Cleaner pressure in the right places. Lesson learned: if someone tries to steal your property with paperwork, beat them with better paperwork.